available in the dot-com boom. So I waited and waited and waited until I thought, oh, this is the right time to do it, and the bubble burst and I missed the opportunity. So timing is really important. I ended up working for JP Chase until 2014, and the big thing there was all about regulation, and the number one issue that we're all aware of is too big to fail. So imagine if crypto now is at the point where as a technology and as a capital market, it is too big to fail. There's no rolling it back, okay? It's there and it's here to stay. So I left in 2014 because I found a problem that I wanted to solve. I didn't know technically how I was going to do it. The project was called Zonafide, and serendipitously, blockchain and crypto fell into my path, and we had to build a product on that. So just a quick overview of our product. It's a digital wallet for securing activities. So just like you send a message or a picture, you can share an activity that you want to secure. Maybe it's an instruction to your solicitor to make a payment on a property purchase, or maybe it's permission for workmen to access a property you're renting out. Okay. The unique part of the product is it allows family and friends and professionals to help in assuring that activity, and by working like that, it's much less likely that you're going to become a victim of fraud. But most importantly, everything's getting harder to do. So it makes all of your sort of interactions with organisations much easier because it becomes easier for them to verify. Now, it's a distributed app, which is a kind of application on the Ethereum platform. It uses smart contracts, and we've actually had it as an MVP for about a year. This is the first use case. I think we're probably the first to have a relationship with local governments where there's been a commitment to use a product in a local government service. So register services, that's where they register births, deaths and marriages and things like that. They're planning to acknowledge life events to the public that present an activity such as, I've been married, I'd like to change my name, and they will actually acknowledge that activity after the marriage, and then it can be shared with all of the service providers to try and make that record update a single-click event. So our focus now is less on persuading the government to use our product. We've sort of done that. Where we are is we're focused on training service providers to actually accept these notices. So at the early stages of that, got some pretty good companies starting to get engaged, and the value proposition to them is that they can improve their customer experience, they can remove the friction out of it, they get an opportunity to engage meaningfully in life events, and of course they can increase automation in pretty boring record changes, things like that. But I'm here to actually talk to you about what is a token, and I'm going to emphasise it's in my humble opinion because everybody's learning. I'm not an expert. Technically I know what it is, but what role it plays I'm learning as well, so I'm sharing that experience with you. So I'm going to go through what it is at a high level technically, what's it represent, where can you find them, how do you acquire them, and then just talk about the tokenomics part that has caused us a little bit of problem in our product, okay? I'm also scoping it down to an ERC20 smart contract, which is a standard that Ethereum uses for issuing tokens. Right, so what is a token technically? In reality, you've just got to reflect on blockchain. I know we've got a mix here, but how many people actually really know what blockchain is? Oh, good. Okay, so it's, I don't have to get too detailed, right? But essentially, this is a summary of what it is. It's thousands of computers in a decentralized network that literally share the same copy of a record. Okay? They all have an algorithm known as consensus algorithms that they use to agree on the changes to those records. And what is absolutely fundamental, it's not a new technology, but it's a new way of trying to use this technology, is the public-private key cryptography. And really that's just a way to make sure that records can only be changed by the owner of the record. Okay? Now the blockchain, Bitcoin was Bitcoin, that's what came first. And really the blockchain was a way of trying to describe the technology. And what it's referring to is that everybody's records are all chained together in blocks, and they're cryptographically chained together. And if you were to try and change any record, it would cause a problem with the integrity of the whole data. So the network itself would reject any of those kinds of changes. What's incredibly important is that there's an incentive for these computers to actually behave like this and to participate. So this is where the cryptocurrency came in, and they all actually get rewarded in cryptocurrency for doing something that they call mining, right? So in reality, that's when people are using the blockchain, they're paying a small fee to the network for actually securing the data. Okay, so then we've got blockchain, but what's a smart contract? So Ethereum is probably the most popular smart contract platform, and so they've established a whole technical paradigm around creating smart contracts, and they are actually code so that's a contract that's written in a programming language. That programming language inside the blockchain will facilitate, verify, or enforce the performance of an agreement. And I got that from Wikipedia. They're self-executing, so they check their conditions, they check their parameters, they can change state, and they can make payments, all independently. They're all self-enforcing, so they're building on that cryptographic concept to make sure that any interactions with them are done by the people that are entitled to do that. And then the consensus algorithms, in this case with smart contracts, are making sure that the execution of the code itself is what was intended. So rather than just checking the record, they're checking that the execution of the code is what's meant to happen. So you can then say, what is a token? So a token is a record managed by a smart contract. That's my definition. So what does a token represent? It basically represents ownership. In the beginning there was obviously Bitcoin. It's a record of value. We now call it a cryptocurrency. A token is a digital record of ownership, and it's become synonymous with the concept of an ICO. It has a perceived value, and what's really important is the record of the token allocation is public. The whole blockchain is public, okay? There's no central party required to change the ownership, it's all peer-to-peer. So there's no one sort of getting a record and deciding who's got what allocation. This is all done automatically in the blockchain itself, in the smart contract. So what is an ownership of what? And this is where it gets contentious. So because so many people have got a strong concept of the capital markets and all the financial products, people are very quick to go, oh, okay, let's use it as a return, to be a record of a return from an investment. And as soon as you do that, as soon as it looks like a share or equity or some other regulated financial instrument, it is the case that it is just a record, whether it's a record in a company or it's a record on a public database, it's still a record of a security, right? So it will still fall under various jurisdictional regulatory controls, such as the SEC. It can also represent, obviously, a physical asset, like gold and diamonds. In fact, we've got a couple of guys in our team on the advisor panel that are from Digits, which was one of the first ICOs, and they've got a platform that tokens represent gold. It can also represent a reward. So we're all used to Facebook and Twitter and everything, and we kind of know that we're giving all that content for free, and they're monetizing that through advertising. But there's an opportunity to use tokens. There's an opportunity to use tokens to reward people for doing blogs and tweets and things like that. And there's already a site called isnt that does that. So the last thing is a utility or a service. Now, the way that we use a token in Zonafide is that we do use it as a value exchange between participants using the software. Okay, so we consider that a utility or a service. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Right, so where do you find tokens? So there's quite a big industry growing around this now. In fact, Sean, that's really the industry that Sean's getting into, is to help people get their ICO out there and help them market it, and help people find these ICOs. So some of the most popular are Smith & Crown. They list and rate ICOs. Token Market is a platform provider, so they will list ICOs, but they also help the projects deploy their tokens and operate the ICOs. You've got an exchange like Kraken, where you can go, once the token is in the secondary market, you can go there and actually exchange the token with other people. And then finally, something I look at every day is CoinMarketCap, which lists the price and the capitalization of various tokens that are out there. So this is the one that we look at the most. So how do you acquire tokens? So who has actually bought, other than Bitcoin, sort of an ICO-based token? Oh, a few more people. Okay, not too many though. Okay, so you'll be probably familiar with some aspect of this. So generally the trend is that they will market their ICO. You'll find them on one of the listing sites. You'll go to their website and you'll see something like this that says this is a token sale. It'll give a countdown to when it's going to start or to when it's going to end. Give you a bit of a fact sheet about the start and finish time. How much money they're raising, what the price is. They've got different ways of working out the pricing. Some people are doing auctions and stuff, but this here is just a basic price. For 1 ETH, you get 3,124.9 tokens. This one's actually currently live now, actually. It's known as Dovu, I think. So it'll also tell you, because it's public information, it's basically telling you off the blockchain how much actually has been raised and how many tokens have been issued and how many actual participants. So far there's only 528 actual participants in acquiring the tokens in this particular one. So when you click on contribute, it'll go through probably some formalities, maybe KYC, things like that. It depends on how diligent they are. And it'll then give you an address. This is a public key, that rather being a public key representing someone else that you're transferring some money to, it's a public key of the contract, the ERC20 contract. So it will give you instructions to use the digital wallet of your choice, quite often my ETH wallet. Simple instructions. You can then go through the process of taking the information from here, the address. Sometimes they give you a bit of data to provide in the form, and then they'll give you a couple of things that are important, the gas limit and the gas price. Now the gas limit is important because that dictates the amount of computer resource that is estimated to actually process your purchase, and if you don't get that right, you'll never get a transaction through. And also there's a price that you're volunteering to pay for that. So you would just duplicate what they've advised there in your wallet, and you would just transact, and it's pretty straightforward. All the people that have done it, did you find it straightforward? No, you didn't? Okay. But I think it's improving, it is improving. So this particular one seems to be quite good with its instructions. I think it's in partnership with KPMG, and they're trying to say that they're setting a precedent for the right way to do it. If you actually want to see what happens when you purchase your tokens, you can go to a blockchain explorer like Etherscan, and you can actually put the contract into here in the search and actually see your transaction amongst everybody else's transactions live being processed on the blockchain. So, what does it mean to us? Right, so we built our product to solve a particular problem, and it works, and it runs on Ethereum. So obviously we would like to get funded to go operational, and we started to get approached by people interested in us ICOing. So I had to stop development in June with the team and start thinking about how do we change our software to actually use a token as part of the ecosystem. So this here is a way for me to try and explain the impact of a token in our software. It's not as simple as just buying a share in a company. If it's done the way that I think it should be done, the token plays an important economic part in how the software works, right? So these are the actors and how they relate to each other in our system. You've got someone that's carrying out an activity. The first thing that they want to do is choose a type of activity, and a developer would have created that. So to be able to buy that activity, which is a very small price, they have to acquire TOG from the market. So this is where the TOG has been issued, okay? So they'll actually purchase TOG from the market to pay the developer to use the activity. The next thing that they want to do is have somebody acknowledge. There's two types of acknowledgers, but the one that's important and that will require some kind of payment is an authoritative acknowledger, like a registrar in a local authority. So when they get an acknowledgement on the activity, they also pay some token value to the acknowledger. Now at this point, you've got to recognise that both the acknowledger and the developer want to dispose of their tokens in the market because they want to cash in. So you've got a pull of the token and you've got a contribution of the token. So you've then got to verify that someone who's taking the activity and wants to verify it. Sometimes they need to verify that the acknowledger is who it's supposed to be. So they will actually pay TOG to what we call an oracle, an authoritative acknowledge oracle, who will confirm, just like when you're doing a transaction on the website, you see the SSL certificate. There's a fee charged for confirming that the acknowledger is authoritative for that particular kind of activity. So you can see, this is tokenomics. How is the token moving around? How will the different actors be motivated to actually transact and provide some kind of price movement on the top? All right, and we see it as a mechanism for us to add features to the software. But if we actually see some of the actors not being incentivized enough, then we will change the software so that it improves the features or it just encourages the appropriate behavior. And that's a new concept. This is my whole career. I've never had to sit there and design this kind of financial economy to underpin my software. So our software is already available. It's on Google Play. If you've got an Android phone, you can just type in Zonafide, download the app, and if you wanted some free testing from me, I can push you some. It's a bit more difficult to get for iOS at the moment. Just like every other potential ICO startup, we are in lots of channels, okay, but our main website